All right, we are recording the first ever Starving Artist podcast, and it is my honor to introduce our first ever guest on this podcast. This is a man who can only be described as a jack of all trades, and I feel honored that he's agreed to hop on here and talk a little bit about his creative process. His story, his content, and his art has been inspirational to me as an independent author, and I think anyone who listens to this and listens to his words of wisdom will gain a lot of insight that they'll be able to take away from this episode. He is the author, illustrator, and creator of the Ultimate Guard Dogz Unleashed. I've got my copy here. It came today, actually.
Oh man, yeah.
We had some difficulties with it. My apartment complex turned it away the first time, but it was able to come in time for this podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Tory Bush.
Hello everybody. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for having me on. And man, that was a great introduction. Thank you so much. Um,
Absolutely. And before hopping into the amazing world that you've built in this comic, I'd like to introduce two other guests that might make you feel right at home. Atlas, come here. Come here. Come here. Can you hop up? Hey, can you hop up? Hop up. All right, we've got my
oh,
my Rottweiler,
gorgeous. Oh
Atlas.
man. Oh, he's gorgeous.
I just woke him up from a nap, so he's gonna be a little grumpy. Kato, come here, Tay. Come here, Tay. Can you hop up? And we've got my
Oh
German
man.
my German Shepherd. Hey, come here, Kay. One
Man.
more, just so we can get your. Can you swivel the camera around a little bit? Come here, Tay. Come here, Tay. Yeah, perfect.
Oh man.
He's not too big on the PDA, so
Yeah.
anytime I try to make him hop up, he's a little bit upset with
Yeah.
me. Um all right, so yeah, as I've said to you in chats before, I'm a huge dog person. I think that's probably why your comic book popped up on my algorithm in the first place. Probably knew that I've always had a huge heart for dogs. But we'll obviously have a discussion about your experience with dogs and my experience with dogs a little bit later. Before doing that, I'd like to just ask you to tell us viewers of the podcast a little bit about yourself, and I've obviously got some more questions later on about what led to you creating this world. But if you just want to tell us a little bit about your backstory and what led up to you creating this fantastic comic book.
All right. We dive in. My name is Tory Bush. I'm from Louisiana. I've been drawing and having dogs my entire life. So I've always drawn in class, drawn every teacher I've ever had. Um, you know, I was in the streets a little bit growing up, you know what I mean? I had a kind of rough life growing up and ended up being in prison at the age of 19 years old and serving a 10-year sentence. I didn't get out till I was 29 years old. So in between that time, from 19 to 29, I was incarcerated, and it was a very um, crazy experience, it's to say the least. You know what I mean? So I knew one thing, that prison could either make you a bitter person, a bitter man, or a better man. So I chose the latter. I chose to be a better man. And they have everything in there for you to learn. But if you don't want to learn, you won't learn. You know what I mean? It's so
Mm,
many different things that you can become in there. You can become I got a college degree while I was in prison because I
yeah.
wanted to do better. But you can also get a degree of being a, a criminal, a career criminal. People that I know that are home now, that I've met people that have gotten out, went back in, got out, and got killed. So it's that much of a diverse experience. So it's about what you want in life. And my thing was, I like dogs. I've always had a dog, and I've always been able to draw. So I wanted to take my expertise, just my passions, and put them together. I had so many different difficult situations in my life that I could sit here and blame and, and cry about why my life turned out the way it is, or change it and do something that, sometimes you don't have to worry about what other people think about you, because that's what makes you not complete what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because you're worrying
Yeah.
about what somebody else thinks. And you're not even realizing that other people think the same way that you think. Like you love dogs. You have a Rottweiler hat. You have Rottweiler, German Shepherd. I've grown up with dogs. Dogs have always been let me see, my safe place. They always are there to love you. They never judge you. They keep you, safe. And I just, my thing on dogs. But the process of me writing this book was to be unbiased to, race, religion, and anything else, and just focus on the love of dogs, and not just the love of dogs. Dogs some are some extraordinary creatures. They developed to be with us, not the other way around. They are 99% wolf. These
Yeah.
dogs, like if you look at YouTube like I do, you see dogs run up walls and grab ropes and stuff like this. You see dogs hunt wild boar. You have the Rhodesian Ridgeback and the Boer who hunt lion. You know what I mean? So dogs are not just those, pets that we see and think that they're just lovey-dovey. Man, these are some animals, and they can do some extraordinary things, but they show love more than they show their aggressive side. And the reason I chose the dogs is like each dog was bred for a specific purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Pit Bull, of course, it was bred for fighting and hunting. Rottweiler, same thing. These dogs were bred to be a certain way, and for them to be, extraordinary, they have to live up to what they were born to do. And a lot of the times that we, as human beings and as people, forget what we want to do or want to be. As a kid, you grow up and be like, man, they ask you in maybe second, third grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? Man, the sky's the limit. Astronauts, president, anything that you could ever imagine is in your hand. But as we get older, we worry about what other people think, and we stop going to that goal of our purpose, because you're purposely doing stuff because you love to do it. I'm a dog trainer. I draw dogs. I'm a dog owner. That's what I love, and
Yeah.
it's
And so while you mentioned that you were able to get your degree, your college degree while incarcerated, what did that process look like to people who aren't familiar with that system?
okay. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
very hard. It's very hard to even imagine thinking about going to class and then coming home and you got to go lockdown because we just had a riot, or
Mm,
somebody just got stabbed, and you got to stop your class and go in here, and now you're on lockdown and you can't leave your cell for weeks at a time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
My only escape was drawing and writing and reading. I read so many books about what I like, dogs. I read so
Yeah.
many books about, just fantasy. I had a friend who had already been locked up. He had been gone from his family for 15 years, and he had stacks and stacks and stacks of comic books. And he
Yeah.
was like, man, I think you'd like this, man. Check these out. And man, we were on lockdown for 30 days at this time, straight, like 30 days.
Yeah.
And they bring you peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and no, I'm sorry, peanut butter and syrup sandwiches, and bologna sandwiches. And this is what you eat every day, 3 times a day. And you only take showers on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and to go to school and be focused on that. And not to mention, this is just inside of the prison. You're not even thinking about what's going on in the free world with your family, because I had a daughter and a son that grew up without me. I didn't see, my daughter was conceived. I went to prison and I didn't see her. First picture I ever got of her was an ultrasound. And
Mm-hmm.
the last picture I got of her before I got out of prison was she was in the second grade. So I missed her entire life until she was 10. And my son, he was 2, and I got her, he was 12. So something that you have to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong to overcome that and still have the drive.
And what does the actual what does the culture look like when you decide that you want to start going to class and obtain a degree while in prison? I mean, is that something that other inmates uh, frown upon or try to discourage you
No,
from?
it's quite the opposite. When
Okay.
people see you want to do better and people want, like, uh, man, the gang members, the ones that's always causing trouble, when they see you doing something different, it's not like in school, they tease you, you're going to school. No, they want to know, how can I do like you're doing? I
Oh,
want to
that's
do like
awesome.
you. You're inspiring to me. You know what I mean? You get up every day and you get up and you go get it. How can I be like you? Still to this day, I have friends that I've made in prison that call me and ask me for advice. And still they look up to me and be like, man, you inspire me. How can I do like you? And I give them the same advice that I give everybody. Just don't stop. Never give up. Push. Even when you don't see the end, just keep going. It's gonna, sometimes you can't go around situations. You can't go under them. You can't go over them. You just have to go through it. And when you
Yeah.
realize going through it is the thing that you need to survive, that is the most, um, I think, inspirational thing for anybody, because they can see that what I went through, they all went through, and I'm making it. I'm no different
Yeah.
from you or anybody else. We all can do it.
Do you do you still have relationships with people who are still locked up to this day, and
Yes, I
are you
have
able to
friends.
keep in touch with them?
Yes, I do. I still have, I had I have a friend right now. He's still serving a 45-year sentence, and he just got his second degree. He got his bachelor's, and he's like, man, I'm gonna be home one day, and I want to
Yeah,
do like you said. I want to be a better man, not a bitter man. You know,
that's
so
awesome.
I have friends that had life sentences. Shout out to Jamie. Oh man, he had a life sentence and went to the library and ended up giving that life sentence back. And now he's home and working and being successful. He calls me and be like, "Hey, I just want to do the right thing now." So yeah,
That's awesome.
integrity.
And the you mentioned that it was someone who was in there that had access to comic books. Was that the first time that you were exposed to comic books, or had you read them before in your early
I
adolescence, or
my adolescence, I was like, if you knew me, I was in the streets at from
yeah,
11 years old, and I would see comic books at school with some of my friends, but I wasn't just like, I have a cousin that collect comic books and collect stuff like that, but I never was really into it. I look at it, see the art, and I'm like, man, that's cool, but I didn't have enough time. For me as a young kid, I didn't have time to be inside looking at books. I had other things that I was doing,
mhm.
and I didn't really, have the feel like I had the time to sit down and look at these comic books, and you know, I didn't have that luxury, I think. And once I got in there and sat down and read them, it was one of the coolest things ever, you know.
And is your cousin, is his actual name Ted, or is that
Oh,
um
that's
I
his actual name is Ted. His middle name
okay.
is.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I know that he helps you with editing. If you have read the story at the bottom, it says edited by Ted the Toy Collector. I just didn't know if that was a nickname that he went by or if his actual name was Ted. But
Yeah,
it was actually his video that I had stumbled on, and that's kind of how I ultimately found this comic and then followed Ultimate Guard Dogz and stuff like that. But I just wanted to make sure I was calling him the right name because I know that
yeah.
he's worked with you a lot on
Oh
this
yeah.
and the actual publishing process. Even though you know the actual idea and the art and the story is uh all came from your brain, which is really inspiring. I guess while we're kind of on the topic of while you were incarcerated, I know that from some of Ted's videos that you sort of got this initial idea and the early drafts and sketches of these characters while in prison. So I guess while you were still doing your time, what was it about while you were currently incarcerated that led to the creation of Ultimate Guard Dogs?
Well, it's a funny story. I had a dream, I was trying to change my life, trying to figure out where I wanted to be. I'm spending all my 20s in prison, and I don't want to be getting out and not have anything or have any kind of, you know, drive to do the right thing. I needed something, and I had a dream, and it was a dog like figure. It was a anthropomorphic dog. He can talk, and I can't remember what he told me, but when I saw his face, I woke up and I actually drew his face, and it was actually this dog, the pit bull, and and after that, I kept writing, and I had these stories in my head. I wrote so many. I still have the binder now, and actually, I could write an entire book because I've written it all from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end. Unleashed is only the first chapter
Yeah.
of this vast universe that I have. This is, you showed your dog. This is the new character,
Oh, that is
Tough, the
awesome.
Rottweiler. I'm giving y'all some sneak peeks of him. And also the German Shepherd
Hold on
Gunther
one
is
second.
gonna be,
It's
he's the richest dog in the world.
hold on.
Yeah, can you hear
Go
me?
back. Go back. Go back just a little bit. It started buffering a second. If you could show that one more time.
Absolutely. Sneak
Awesome.
peek. This is the Rottweiler Tough who's coming up next. And also in the same book, the German Shepherd. It was so when you showed me the German Shepherd and the Rottweiler, it
I
was like,
know.
wow, this is
Well,
this is the next book up,
I had seen sort of where you were looking to take the universe, and had literally seen that the second issue was the introduction of the Rottweiler and the German Shepherd, and I was like, man, what are the coincidences that
What man?
those are the two dogs that I own,
Yeah,
which I know the German Shepherd is fairly common dog that you see, but as a Rottweiler owner, I very rarely run into anyone else that owns one, or knows who they are or what they are, or
yeah,
confuses them with like a Labrador or a mutt,
right.
or just don't have any exposure to them. So I was like, oh my God, like I've got to get like
And funny
I,
thing is,
I'd been thinking about launching this podcast, and I was like, I gotta get this guy on. This is
man, I
incredible.
appreciate it. Thank you, bro. And I started breeding Rottweilers,
Oh
AKC
my gosh.
versus Rottweilers, at 14 years old. I got my first Rottweiler. My sister Melanie bought her from me. Her name was Angel. Her birthday was April 2nd. She was my first Rottweiler. Then I got my second Rottweiler. His name was Dylan. And till this day, I'm 42 years old. And at 14, my neighborhood, people still remember those dogs till this day. I trained them myself. They had puppies. I would breed them. Mardi Gras would come, Mardi Gras season now. So I would have my puppies for Mardi Gras, selling puppies as a young kid. I've been a Rottweiler fan, a dog fan. I've had almost every breed of dog you can think of. I've trained almost every dog you can think of, and it's one of the best things in the world because all the studying I've done, reading about them, and actually seeing, like, I just trained a Central Asian Shepherd dog, and it was one of the best experiences ever because I've only read about them.
Yeah.
I've never actually had the experience of being in the same room with one, and oh my goodness, it was the one of the best experience ever. So it was like, this is what I like to do, and it was an honor to be able to be in the presence of this breed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thing.
So that actually brings me a question I had written down a little bit later on, but I might as well jump into it now. I know that you're a husband, you're a father, and your bio on the website actually says that you have 7 dogs. So I was wondering if
Yeah,
you would be willing to talk a little bit about which dogs you currently own and their names
yeah,
and their breeds.
absolutely. I have 6 right now, all
Okay.
American bullies. All American bullies. My son has the Rottweiler, which makes the 7th. So
Okay.
I've been breeding American bullies for 10 years now, almost. My oldest dog is Geronimo. He's the grandfather. I have his daughter, Gypsy. I have her daughter, Trinity. And I have her son and daughter, whose name is Triple X and Darla. Also, I have another Gypsy daughter from a different litter. She's a sister to Trinity, but they have different fathers. And her name is Jubilee. She's my youngest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what? what is it about, the American Bully that, you particularly gravitate to that has made you want to, continue to own them and breed them and I guess make that your personal family dog that you own?
Yeah, because of they have the exaggerated features of the pit bull. The pit bull has always had a bad name, but these dogs are like a hybrid of the pit bull, Staffordshire Terrier, bulldog. They're everything good about the breed. They're the big blocky heads. They're the big muscular, intimidating factor, but the sweetest dog. You can pick them up,
Yeah.
hold them. You can leave them with your kids. They have the look, but they are bred to be companion dogs. This is what they were bred to be. Nothing else but that.
Yeah, and I think it kind of drives home the point you were making earlier on about how there are um, these certain stereotypes that go along with dogs, and how as humans you know the sky's the limit when we're younger. Same thing with dogs. It all depends on who the dog is owned by, who it's trained by, who it surrounds itself with, and that's what's going to be the ultimate indicator of what kind of dog you actually have, whether or not it ends up being reactive or aggressive or just the sweetest angel that you've ever met. And so I think that kind of drives home the American Bully is the perfect exemplar of that, in the sense that
Yes.
there are a lot of people that do fear it, based on the stereotype that goes along with it. But in the right hands, it really is just the most perfect family dog. And I see some of the sweetest videos of pit bulls with just little babies, guarding the baby, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, um, so that is awesome. Um, okay, and so I wanted to talk a little bit more about what, and if I'm looking down, I've got my notebook here that I'm reading off of. Um, what kind of comic books, stories, or artists influenced your style and storytelling? I know that you do have a deep admiration for Muhammad Ali and boxing based on the content that I've seen. In fact, the the actual central character of your first of Unleashed, his name is Gloves, and
Yeah.
he is this awesome championship boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Pun intended. He's both a boxer, the breed, and a boxer,
Yeah, that's why I did it.
the fighter. But I saw that you named him his. It's almost like his name is Gloves, but
Yeah.
his government name is Clay,
Clay,
and
yeah, for
I
Cassius
know that.
Clay.
Yep,
Yeah.
Cassius Clay. That's what I thought you may have drawn
Yeah.
inspiration from. And so, in that same vein, what other comic stories or artists influenced the story that we have in front of us today?
Well, actually, man, all of them from Marvel, DC, Dragon Ball Z, you know, uh, all of those things had influence in making this. You know what I mean? And just not those comic books and artists, but also my experiences in life and the stories I've read about these dogs and how, I use historical dogs, like actual dogs, like the German Shepherd, whose name is Gunther. It's actually a dog named Gunther the Fourth. He's the richest dog in the world, and he's a German Shepherd. He has actually a show on Netflix. He has a series, Gunther the Fourth, and I use him as the richest dog in the world. So he's going to be like the Tony Stark, um,
That's
Batman
awesome.
type figure. Yeah. I can tell you every character is like this. It's 463 breeds of dogs. So that means it's 463 characters that are going to be introduced in the Ultimate Guard Dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, we have, and I use their abilities that they were bred to do as their superpowers. Also, like the Chihuahua, he's small, but if you had 1,000 Chihuahuas with that aggressive attitude on you, you would have a problem. It would be like piranhas on you. But we have Spooks here, and he's the Chihuahua, and his special ability is multiplying. So he can multiply into a bunch of Chihuahuas, and he's
Okay.
one of the most powerful in here. And also, he's named after one of my cellies that I had in prison. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it goes, hand in hand with that. And every dog that's going to be a guard dog is going to be one of those dogs that has a bad name that's been banned before, not only in the United States but around the world. So I want to give those dogs with a bad name a good name, because sometimes they do what they inherently know how to do. And if in the wrong situation, it may be bad, but in the right situation, it could save your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really inspiring. And it just, there. I'm glad that there is an advocate out there that is trying to get that word out. I know that in the UK there was recent talks within the last, I think it was like year and a half, about the UK banning pit
Yeah.
bulls from being owned as family dogs in general, which I'm sure that you have personal feelings about, since
Oh, yeah.
the American Bully is your go-to family dog.
Yeah.
As far as gloves goes, uh, I guess I don't want to give anything away about issue one. I do want to talk a little bit about Gloves as a character. If you want to just kind of talk a little bit, we've talked about, what inspired Ultimate Guard Dogs from your life experiences to your time that you served. But if you just want to give a general gist summary about what the actual story itself is about, and then I'll ask a couple specific questions about Gloves.
Okay. Well, Unleashed is the introduction of the world and universe of the Ultimate Guard Dogs. Canis, Canidae, and all the people or all the characters in this universe are canine, which are wolves, jackals, hyenas. Well, not really hyenas, but they'll be in there. But all things related to canine are on this planet. And Gloves, our main character of the first book, he has a special ability of flash forward. He can actually see the future. And on this page itself, if you didn't realize it, I'll show you. Right here on this page here, if you look, these are flash forwards. You see this picture right here with this girl running, or this dog right here running, and you can see the back. She has some shadows behind her. I'll show you that same page in this book, because this was the flash forward that he saw,
Oh my
her running
God.
the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did not connect that.
yes, sir. That's why I did it. I'm glad that we're on here so I can show that. So this is what Gloves is. Gloves is actually going to be the narrator. So because he sees the future, so he tells the story. And if you do notice, at the beginning of the book, it's
Hmm.
all color. It's color until we get to Gloves, and he's in the boxing ring. So when it turns to black and white, it's said that dogs are colorblind. They actually see colors, but being that, colorblind means black and white to some people, when it goes to black and white with splashes of color, that's
Hmm.
looking from the dog's point of view. It's not
I
the
love
narrator
that.
speaking.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering why um it did make that shift, because I did notice that, there are colored panels in the beginning, and then the actual story itself, from Gloves accepting the job to be a security guard and forward, it was black and white. And so I was wondering what
Yeah,
that reasoning was.
that's the reasoning, because dogs see in black and white, and it's great. So they don't see any color, they don't see any, it's just a dog, or just a person, just a
Yeah.
individual. So it's not any, you know, so that's kind of what it is. So he has flash forward, and that's how he became one of the best boxers in the world, because he would beat his opponents, and his powers only work whenever he's in motion, whenever he's fighting. This is
Hmm.
whenever his premonitions come. But this
Okay.
one, that first one that you see was the first one that he's ever had that goes that far. It normally only goes 15 seconds so he can see what his opponent is about to do. So
Yeah,
that's
because
why he was,
there's a there's an 8 year time jump. Um,
yeah.
so that would mean that he was seeing, 8 years in the future during that match that he was in.
He was 8 years in the past. So when he wakes up, it's 8 years
Yeah.
in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. He saw 8 years ahead. He had never seen that before. So that 8 year, he goes to that. So it's kind of crazy, huh? So, and
Yeah.
honestly, I could show you too. There's another one on there too, which you see the Rottweiler in the Flash. That's letting you know what book two is going to be about.
Yeah.
So
That's
So
in the
yeah,
same. That's in the same panel too. That
yes,
he
sir.
saw the other dog running.
Yeah.
And so why did you? Obviously, you have this whole story written out.
hmm
You know where you plan on taking it. Why did you ultimately decide to start the story off with the particular character of Gloves? That would be sort of the flagship character. I know that you said that he's the narrator, so that does make sense. But the boxer in general and his Gloves specifically, his role in this universe. Why did you ultimately choose to do that?
Because Gloves, he was the oxymoron almost. He's the boxer who's actually a boxer. So I
Yeah.
wanted that pun to hit hard because every other dog, their abilities come from their breed qualities. So I wanted that to hit home. So it could be just like, oh, a boxer who's a boxer. Okay, I've never seen that before. Let me try to see what else you have. So now we go to the different breeds and we introduce what they were bred to do. Like the pit bull, he's gonna be, almost like a cage fighter, almost. You know what I mean? UFC fighter. So it goes from, that kind of. And also he's the narrator, and also the boxer is one of my favorite breeds of dogs. So it just all fell into place.
And it's funny because I know that we talked about how I own Rottweiler, German Shepherd, and that's sort of what issue two is about. My best friend currently, he is the owner of a boxer and a corgi, and an
Oh
episode
man.
and in Unleashed, it there's actually a corgi security guard officer, and it was probably I actually laughed out loud when I'll show this one little panel of the
Yeah.
corgi climbing off of his chair. I thought that was hilarious.
Yes, thank you. That's what I
Because
wanted.
but yeah, I was I've read the digital copy of this, and then I got the physical today. But I was telling my friend, I was like, issue one actually has both a boxer and a corgi. Your two dogs,
Yeah.
so that's the coincidences are just
Yeah,
crazy.
it's just crazy.
Um, okay. I was wanting to know from a creating standpoint. I know everyone has different reasons or methods that they go about telling stories and all of that. But I was wondering what your approach to actual world building is whenever you were sitting down to put the pen to paper and write this story. I guess how did you go about fleshing out all these ideas to the point where you got the full story?
Okay, so it's just 15 years of writing and reading and researching and putting things together. So if you look up the history of a certain breed of dog, it gives you such an extraordinary tale of how it came to be and why it came to be. And I took that and mixed it with what I went through in life and just regular stories. And it kind of just came to me, honestly. It just came to where I can put this here, take this out, use this, take this, and it flowed. And and not to mention just so many different things that I've been through with dogs. Like I've seen dogs hunt. I've seen
Hmm.
dogs catch hogs. I've seen dogs in their element. You know what I mean? And when you
Yeah.
see a dog in its element, it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. Like watching a bird dog go retrieve a bird that got shot down and bring it back with no bite marks in it. You didn't have to teach it. It did it
Hmm.
on its own. You know what I mean? And that was my driving force of doing it because sometimes, like I know how to draw. Who would have knew that I would be drawing a graphic novel? But I
Yeah.
never stop. I keep on going. And honestly, these pictures that you're looking at in this book, I drew this in prison.
Yeah.
These are the original pictures that I drew in prison. That's why they sketchy. That's why they look the way they look because I wanted it to be rough. My next book is going to be smooth because I'm learning how to use Photoshop. I'm learning how to, like, my drawings have become, like, honestly, man, they become a lot better because the more you do something, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
Normally, I draw realistic portraits of dogs and people. Hold on 1 second, my phone might die. Let me go get a charger real quick if
Yeah.
that's
You're
okay.
fine. You're fine. While we're on that topic, I didn't have this question written down, but this is more so personal curiosity.
Hmm.
Have you been able to attend, as since you do training as your full-time job, have you been able to attend stuff like Schutzen training, or for people who don't know what Schutzen is, like
Yeah,
bite
that's
work training, or like watching dogs, learn how to do it, agility courses, obstacle courses, stuff like that?
yes, actually, that's what I when I was a trainer at another dog kennel called Man's Best Friend, I used to put the suit on and get bit, do bike work and all that other stuff too. I not only do um just obedience, I do bite work. I can do it all, but mostly I'm just a behavioralist because sometimes you can show a dog. This is my thing when it comes to a protection trained dog and any kind of stuff people want with their dog. You have to be a responsible owner, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to. I'm only going to teach you basic obedience. If you can do your basic obedience and have control over your dog, then I'll show you how to do the bite work and the schutzing and the protection training. Because some people are very irresponsible and teach their dog this and don't follow up on it. And when you don't follow up, you just have an aggressive dog that
Yeah.
will bite somebody. So this is one of my things. If you can't show me you can have complete control of your dog without a leash, without anything, then I won't show you that. But that's
Yeah.
what Schutzen, yeah. But I
Yeah, I was
have,
just
and I love it. Yeah, it's one of the most extraordinary things ever to see them how smart they are.
Yeah, I mean, I got to gosh, a couple it was over 5 years ago, but my I got the chance to sit in on my local police department was doing some training with their Belgian Malinois for like drug sniffing and stuff like that. So I got
Hmm.
to go to they would do it at the local high school after hours, and I got to go sit in and watch the Belgian Malinois. Um, you know, from there was different stages. Like they had just gotten this one new dog, so they had imported it and they were teaching it the basics, versus there was a veteran dog that had been doing it for 5 years. So I got to see,
Yeah.
the full scope of not only how do they train it to learn how to do this, but see an experienced dog in action and detecting in lockers, in classrooms. I
Hmm.
mean, it was incredible because, like you were
Yes.
saying with the bird dogs, like no, like this stuff just comes instinctually to them, in a way that humans can't even really imagine.
Yeah, you can't even fathom how extraordinary it is. And a lot of the times the dog won't know what to do unless it's in that situation, like a herding dog. Once you put them in somewhere like Australian Shepherds or Border Collies, they don't care what it is. They're gonna
Yeah.
hurt it. They want it all in one central area, and they don't know why they do it. They just do it. And then when you bring them out around sheep or something that they can herd, oh man, it's one like I didn't even show them this. It just knows how to do it. And sometimes it's with us, we have people that can just sing, play the guitar,
Yeah.
or, just certain things that we're born innately not knowing that we know how to do it until we do it. And sometimes we're scared to do things and never know that you might be the greatest of it at all time, just never had the chance to do it or afraid.
Yeah, I'm a heavy believer that everyone has sort of an artistic ability within themselves, whether or not they've found that ability or like practiced it, is another thing. But like I think we were innately born to do more than just work a 9 to 5 and answer to whatever major retailer you work for, or being a waitress, server. No matter what profession you end up in, I think that there's still that portion of your brain that is creative, and it wants to exercise itself. It's unfortunate for people who, you know, life gets in the way, and or certain situations make it so that they can't actually sit down and do that at the end of the day.
And I'm guilty of it. I had this book, The Ultimate Guard Dogs, in a binder for over 10 years.
Yeah,
And I showed it to my little cousin Ted, and he was like, wow, this is great. You need to do something with this. So it was like, really? It is?
yeah,
Like I had it and just put it away and just put it away. And I would talk about it, but, until you do something with it, it's just a thought.
yeah,
So whenever he gave me that push of like, man, this could be great, man, go for it. Let's do it. And that push right there made me go full force with it. And now I'm on a podcast talking about it with you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So this is, I was guilty of it. And I want to show people that just taking that first steps and somebody just can then be one person to believe in you, to help you believe in yourself.
I know. And I mean, had he not done that, like we would not. I mean, I love this.
Thank you, man.
This is something that not only would I not have thought to create, but wouldn't have had the ability to create myself. I am an independent author. I write novels, full-length fantasy novels, but I do not have a lick of illustrating talent or ability. So I would not have been able to create something like this. And it was the same thing. It was the same thing at being an author. Had I not had someone else encourage me to pursue it and to actually put my thoughts down on paper and to just actually begin, I never would have written my first book 10 years ago. And even though that
Hmm.
book is just sitting on a shelf collecting dust and was never published, it was actually writing that led to me now, 10 years later, having published other
Yeah.
novels. And so I think as humans, we are our own worst critic. Uh,
Hmm.
and there is that little voice in the back of our head that makes it more difficult for us to actually begin that process. But I think with the help of other people like Ted, like people in my own life, that's what encourages us to pursue it and to make it a reality for ourselves. Um, I wanted to ask, you mentioned a couple minutes ago how you're learning to use Photoshop and how you think issue 2 will be a little bit more different than issue 1, and so I wanted to talk about or have you talk about what your process with issue 1 looked like versus what your process with issue number 2 and subsequent issues will look like.
Absolutely. Well, uh, issue one, of course, it was written in prison. It was written in a place of just on lockdown, just continually, just actually passing time to get my mind off of where I was. I created a world of just dogs, and I jumped into it. The second book was written as well. It's all actually just one real big book, and I just did the storyboard. So actually, issue one is kind of like um, chapter one. Just
Hmm.
introducing the world, and but part two, I actually revamp. Go in and change a few things up. But I um I was here at my house with my kids, and in a different environment. And it was more of taking what I've written and drawing it out now. Now I can show you my skill level of drawing now that it's not when I was 15 years ago in a prison cell. Now I'm home and I'm drawing this now, taking the panels and taking it out of my brain and putting it on paper. And then like these are the pencils of characters. And then
Yeah.
I go to, I have actually a lot of them. Even even when I'm at work, I draw um and and do stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter
That's
what
awesome.
color, the paper it is. I'm gonna go for it. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I just want to show my growth as a not only a person but an illustrator, as a as an artist. I also had my eh, my book, some drawings. I had a art gallery in a museum
I
for
saw
two
that the
months.
Ether, it was called the
E-
Ether
Ether art,
Ether
ether
art.
art.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my nickname as a kid was Ether. Ether is one of the chemicals, and it does what it won't. It kind of is a different kind of thing. You know what I mean? Uh, but that was one of my and kind of play on words, ether art or either or. I can draw realistic. I can draw cartoons. I can paint. I can do whatever you like. I do murals. I do whatever kind of art you can think of. This is my medium is just whatever it is. But
For the actual you know, I'm a bit ignorant to this because like I said, I'm not an artist, I'm not an illustrator. How does it go from the sketch on paper, being a physical sketch on paper, to being able to like digitize it so that you can release a digital file? Do you use like an iPad to turn it into a digital file? Or are you having to turn these paper copies into digital files by redrawing them on an iPad or a tablet or something like that?
yeah, that's exactly what I do. After I draw it on paper, I take a picture of it with my phone. I have an app from the Photoshops called Adobe Capture. I take
Mm-hmm.
a picture of it on Adobe Capture, share it to Photoshop, and my sketches go to the computer. Then I go over it with my stylus. Oh, sorry about that. Showing you my
You're good.
stylus and drop the phone. Yeah, my stylus here, and I have a Lenovo computer, and it's a touch screen. It can and I draw directly from this stylus onto the computer screen, and eventually I come up with the digital copy.
And then was there a big learning curve in having to, I guess teach yourself, or I don't know if you had someone who helped teach you to be able to I know I've dabbled with Photoshop, and it is a very difficult I found it to be a very difficult interface to use just because, I don't have any experience, or I didn't have anyone to help teach me how to use that. So how were you able to not only download that app, but either teach yourself or learn how to use that interface so that you could essentially make this comic digital?
Man, I played with it. I worked with it. They have videos on it. So
Yeah,
whenever I want to learn how to do something, I just press the video and watch it. And
yeah,
then I try it myself and just take it's so many different just things that go with it. And it's like, oh my God, do I
yeah,
have to do all that? So I skip some certain things and it just whatever worked for me. And still today I'm still learning how to navigate it and try to get better at it. So the next issue will be better than the next issue and
yeah,
so on and so forth until, Ultimate Guard Dogs has a team where I can just write and just, we can have people that are doing just the graphic design and because all my characters already have the designs, man. I get comments sometimes about, is there a key to, I have the key in here. I have any dog you can think of. Let me see if I can find I have a whole stack. Hold
yeah.
on, let me see if I can
You're
find
fine.
it.
I think people would love to see that.
Yeah, I also do like realistic portraits. That's
Oh my God,
notorious big.
that's
Yeah,
incredible.
I did this in prison. I sell these prints too. Albert Einstein, like I do like stuff like that as well. But here we go. This is the infamous binder, and this is the cover for Unleashed. Right here.
Oh my gosh, that's
I'll,
incredible.
I'll pull it out for you. I got it in plastic so that, doesn't get, oh, and I also, yeah, so this is the original. See, it went
That
from
is
this to this.
that is too cool.
And then I mean, this is the universe, the wolves, him waking up. And mind you, this is all in prison. I drew this with a, you know,
That is too freaking cool. Yeah, because
yeah,
I mean,
so
I think it's one thing for you to say, that you wrote this and drew this in prison, but I mean to see the actual comparison is mind blowing.
I have it, yeah. And not to mention here we go. I got like all the writings. Like, hold on, we just beginning. Like I have, I mean, Vance. Look, that's the German Shepherd Gunther, the Rottweiler, the boxer.
Oh, they
These are
look.
just this is just scenes. This is another picture of the coyotes on a
Yeah.
motorcycle. Oh, this is. my boy Gloves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and another picture of the coyotes, the original of the one that's in the book. Look at
Yeah.
how small the page is. Look, it's just I kept the
Yeah.
original. So you can see I draw on anything. I write on whatever when it comes to my mind, whatever I can get my hands on. It's tough. Oh, spooked.
Yeah.
And and I mean I can keep going all day long.
Did did any of did any of your cellmates or other people that you were doing time with, were you bouncing ideas off of them while you were creating all
Yes.
this? Yeah.
I sure did. Had a good my good friend Brandon and Be Ready. Like these guys. And look, when I tell you, if you would see them, you would never think that they would be doing. I mean, tattoos in their face, gang
Yeah.
members, man. And these little guys were like, man, this is cool. We can do this. And man, I haven't seen them since I've been home, but I hopefully I will see them again. And like
Beagle.
I, yeah, this is gloves hands right there. So.
Yeah. And I like you were saying, I'm sure that you get a ton of comments about people asking if you have a certain plan for a certain breed because it's as dog owners, it's people's favorite thing in the world to see their dog or their breed of dog that they own involved in other stuff. I mean that was when I found your page before I knew there was a Rottweiler in it. That was like the first thought I had. I was like, oh my God, is he gonna have a Rottweiler or a German
Oh
Shepherd in
yeah.
this
And
series?
Rottweilers are very partial to me. These are my one of
Yeah,
my favorite breeds of dogs. So he's gonna be one of my main characters. Like, and
yeah,
this is
it
a Australian Shepherd.
that looks incredible.
And you remember
Yeah,
that
and then
hyena I was telling you about? I'm sorry. But
oh my God, is that gonna be one of the
yeah,
big bads?
one of the big bads.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, yeah, it's gonna be something cool, man. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I guess while we're on this topic, like I said, I don't want to spoil anything about issue number one, Unleashed. It for anyone who hasn't read it, it does end in a pretty action-packed cliffhanger, and so I was wondering if there's anything that you'd be willing to share as a teaser about issue number two that wouldn't ruin the experience from reading number one if they haven't been able to get their hands on it yet.
Um, Book two is gonna be more. It's gonna kind of take your mind away from book one for a minute, but at the end, it'll bring you right back to it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I don't want to tell too much because I got to introduce these other characters, and not only am I introducing the German Shepherd, the Rottweiler, but I'm introducing the Beagle, the Bloodhound,
Okay.
Billington Terrier, Bull Terrier, Bull Mastiff. Every book I'm going to introduce more dogs, not only good
Yeah.
dogs, bad dogs as well. Dogs that, some dogs, not all good. So we want to have a little bit of, got little bad dogs. We got, you know, but not as bad as the big bads. The big bads
Yeah.
are different from just a bad dog. So,
Yeah. And if anyone who's listening to this hasn't gone around to reading it yet, uh I don't think it's a spoiler at all to say, you've got Tory was able to create, this it within his world building there is he relies on the different ways that wolves have evolved. So you have the wolves, you have the coyotes, you have the canines, and within that world, there's certain gangs like the jackals, and that's kind of the enemy or the villain of issue number one.
right.
Are there any particular like you showed that
Oh,
hyena who look like a villain? Are there any sort of villains that you want to talk about that are coming down the pipeline as far
yeah.
as
The next
dogs?
the next villains we're gonna get on book two, we're gonna introduce the Timberwolf.
Okay.
And then after the Timberwolf, in the same book, we're going to introduce some bad dogs. Like her name is for you to know, she's a corded poodle, and her name is Dr. Perfect. And you'll see, she's kind of a mad scientist, and she's not really bad, just misunderstood. Just some
Yeah.
people have good intentions, but they not done in the correct way. You know what I mean? So And then after
Yeah,
that, we not introduce. I mean, sorry. We're gonna introduce all the different types of wolves. The hyenas. And it's gonna be big, man.
yeah, and I mean, it's funny because whether you're reading DC or Marvel, there's always that sort of you have villains that are obviously villains because they're these brute, strength kind of villains like Doomsday for Superman, but you
Yeah,
also have these intellectual villains where their powers don't stem from how big or how bad or how strong they are, but because they have these genius intellects. And so that's like your brainiac for Superman,
yeah,
who are always 10 steps ahead of the hero. And it kind of sounds like Dr. Perfect might be, I guess,
yeah.
that kind of a villain.
Yeah, and she is, the poodle is the second smartest dog in the world. And the first smartest is the border collie. And she will be introduced. Her name is Chaser, which is actually the smartest dog in the world, who is a border collie. And she is going to be our character. Her and Dr. Perfect are kind of like arch enemies because they're fighting for the smartest dog in the world. And she's young. She's going to be a young kid. She's going to be about 16 years old, but she's a genius. And she's the one who's going to help Gloves and Gunther. She works for the Ultimate Guard Dogs. And also, we're going to introduce in book three, this book right here, we're going to introduce more of the Ultimate Guard Dogs as far as a group and as far as a superhero group. Right now, we're just going to just want you to see it from ground floor, and then we build up to all
And
the
for
characters.
um I hate to ask this question because as an author, anytime I release a book that is a part of a series, some of the first comments I get after people finish it are, like, when's the next one coming out? Do you have
Oh,
any sort of ETA on when issue two
yes, I
might be
would.
coming down the pipeline?
I'm quite sure. My thing, hopefully by April, I will have it done, published, and ready to go. Because I honestly have, I'm almost done. Like every picture that's going to be in there, every page is done. Next book is going to be 60, no, almost 70 pages long. So this next graphic novel, it's going to be Uncaged,
Yeah,
that's the name of it, and it's going to be almost 70 pages long. So it's a true graphic novel, and it's not just a comic book, it's a graphic
yeah.
novel, and it's April is what we're shooting for right now. That's the date we've been trying to have.
I'm
So
sure
some,
I'm sure it'll definitely be worth the wait. I mean, issue one was fantastic, and
thank you.
I'm sure that because you're having to learn how to use things like Photoshop and stuff like that, and you're working on your craft, that it'll obviously be worth the wait. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit how you're able to balance your time. I mean, you're a husband, you're a father, you are a dog trainer, but you are also the creator, illustrator, writer for this, and so. What does a typical day look like balancing all of those responsibilities?
Well, the good thing is that I have everything written already.
Yeah,
Um, I wake up at 4 in the morning. Um, Taking care of my dogs at 4. I leave my house at 5. Get to work for 6. Work an 8-hour shift. I'm socializing dogs, training dogs. I look at dogs' behavior. I'm actually a behaviorist. I look at, dog language is basically body language, and certain things a dog does is a cue to what he means or what he wants or what she, things like that. So I work, get off of work, come back, take care of my dogs, be a dad, and I just prioritize my time. And whatever inkling of time, like while I'm at work, you saw, if I have a second, I'm going to write it down. If
yeah,
I see a vision in my head, I'm going to draw it. These pictures that I showed you are mostly drawn at work, or a lot of this things that I'm writing are written while I'm just on downtime at work. Because once you train a dog, I mean, it's not much else you can do. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I take whatever inkling of time that I have, I want to use it in the best possible way. Like for being a father and a husband, after spending 10 years away from my family, to be able to I have a 3-year-old and we're expecting another one now, to be able to see my children has developed from a child to an adult. My oldest is 22. My daughter is 20. I have a 16-year-old, a 3-year-old, and one to come. So it's like I whatever they need, I want to be there for them. While they're at school or at daycare. I, if I'm home, I'm in this book trying to finish it, or I'm at work doing what I need to do. And not only while I'm at work am I working, I'm also getting new ideas for new characters with the different breeds of dogs that I have. And they're.
Well, and that's I was wondering, I mean, because I know it's obviously all written already, and that takes a certain burden off of
Yes.
you, but since being released, or since at least publishing the first issue, has anything changed within the overall story because of your ability to work with dogs on a day-to-day basis? And have you
Oh yeah.
changed any characters or their personalities or tendencies within the story?
Yes, I sure have. I changed a lot, not only because of the tendencies and the everyday interaction with dogs. It's also the times. I wrote this in 2008 or something like that,
Yeah,
like, and now it's 2025. So it's like I had to catch up with the times. Now I have to change the phone. I have to change the lingo. I have to change just the times a little bit. But that's what I do. I take what I've already written and just bounce ideas off, and what should I say here? Should I say this? No, nobody says tight anymore, or nobody says this anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah,
okay, we got to change the lingo. You know what I mean? And remember, I was telling you I have every character. I found the page that I was looking for. So it goes for every dog breed,
yeah,
right? And I have their names. I have their powers, you know,
yeah,
even the
yeah.
different factions of them. So,
Have you sorry to what were we gonna
Mhm.
say?
Oh
I didn't
no,
mean to
you
cut
can
you
go
off.
ahead. Oh, it's no problem.
I was just wondering if while your kids were a subject, have you seen your own artistic abilities or your storytelling abilities passed on to sort of any of your children? I mean, obviously you've got some younger children and you're
Hmm.
expecting, but your eldest son or your older daughter, have you seen them sort of pick up any of your knacks for illustrating, drawing, anything like that?
Well, my 16-year-old, she dabbles in painting and drawing, and she likes dogs. The baby, she is great at she's drawing ballerinas and stuff like that now. So she likes to draw. It's in her. My second to oldest, I think she's a great storyteller. She takes pictures and she sees things from a different perspective. And sometimes my son, he's a great storyteller. He comes and helps me. Like, what should I? Because he's into Marvel the Marvel movement, and he knows like,
Yeah,
oh, I think you should say this right here, or put him doing this. Oh, yeah, that's nice. So that's why they all have a, inspiration, and to me, they inspire me, not me inspiring them. I
yeah,
look at them and I ask them, and if they think it's cool, like my 3-year-old, she knows the characters' names. She knows Tough. Oh, Daddy, that's Tough. He's a superhero. That's the dogs, and that in itself is like, oh wow, it's real.
yeah,
So
yeah. Would you kind of wrapping up, do you have any advice that you would give to aspiring comic book artists or writers or even just the youth that, were raised up in similar situations to yourself early on that are kind of dealing with difficult life situations? What kind of advice would you give to them in the situations that they're in?
don't let your circumstances hinder your future. Sometimes your circumstances can get in your way, but that doesn't mean it's the end. Sometimes you can look around and say it's nowhere to go, but you can look on TV, TikTok, or any other thing that you got, and the world is huge. It's not just where you are. You know what I mean? Be who you truly want to be, and that's all I can say. Don't let your consequences or your environment control who you are supposed to be and what you're supposed to be.
And do you think that there are any sort of steps or things that they can do to remove themselves from the situations they might be in to be able to foster and garner these, even if it's not drawing or writing, but to pursue these passions that they have sort of in the back of their heads, but that they've been dissuaded from pursuing their whole lives.
Absolutely. It's like this is what separates the best from the rest is that they never stopped doing what they were doing. They never stopped dreaming. They never stopped working. Michael Jordan always played basketball. Kobe Bryant, they stayed in the gym. They shot. They worked on their craft. You know what I mean? So whatever you want to do, never give up on it. Never. You have to be your biggest fan. Push.
Hmm.
Believe in yourself because you are special. You are one of God's chosen. He gave everybody something special. That's why I chose these dogs just to show that, they were bred for a purpose and you are here for a purpose. And you just have to believe in yourself and believe in it and take that first step because it's the hardest step. Taking that first step and not caring about what anybody thinks about you because eventually the people that are laughing or naysayers are going to be your biggest fans one day. They're watching, they're seeing you. You know what I mean? So never give that up. Never stop believing in yourself and your dream. No matter how silly you may think it sounds, man, somebody didn't believe that you could watch or have a phone and talk to somebody and look at them. This was all a dream. And now
Yeah.
look at it. We're doing it right here, right now. Your cell phone it was a thought. So your thoughts are very, very, very important. And don't let them go away. If you don't use it, you definitely lose it. So use your God-given talents and just use it as inspiration and fuel, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I have written down is just a question I plan on asking all indie artists that I have on here, but um, I will, when I'm editing, I'll include links and stuff like that. But where can people support you and find Ultimate Guard Dogs and ultimately follow, the story that you're telling and as you release it and publish it?
Okay, we at ultimateguarddogs.com as our official website, but we're also at Ultimate Guard Dogs on TikTok, Ultimate Guard Dogs on Instagram, Ultimate Guard Dogs on Facebook. You can follow us there and check us out and watch, man. We this is only the beginning, man. It's only the beginning.
I agree. This is the first episode that I have filmed of this podcast. Like I said, I'm an author myself, but I have plans on. I wanted a way that I could support other independent artists, authors, singers, songwriters, rappers. I want
Yes,
to
sir.
be able to develop a community where I can have these people on who might not have the support of publishers or label deals or whatever, and allow them to be able to tell their story. This is the first of many to come, and I'm hoping, within a year, 2 years, whatever, that I'll keep trying to grow this. You'll keep trying to grow Ultimate Guard Dogs and tell the story that you're hoping to tell. And, who knows, within a couple of years, I might be able to have you back on and you'll be a household name. And, yeah, so
I'm honored to be the first one, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is
absolutely, yeah. I'm glad that you were able to join us, and I know there was a couple technical difficulties, but like I said, it's the first one, so I'm still trying to figure out how to do all this. I plan on editing it, and I'll definitely send over some shorts that you
yes,
can
please.
use to post. But hopefully I'll be posting this for anyone who's listening. I'm hoping to post this on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, stuff like that, and then create some shorts and get it on TikTok and Instagram. But I will, anyone who's listening, I will be putting the links that he mentioned to his socials, to his website, so that you can find it. Like I said, Ultimate Guard Dogs is a fantastic story. If you're a dog lover, if you're a comic lover, if you love anime, manga, stuff like that, it is a very original story. All of the superheroes that will be featured in this revolve around specific dog breeds. So even if you might not be someone who loves comic books originally and you don't find yourself reading comics like Superman, Iron Man, stuff like that, there are plans that if you're a dog lover, your dog will more than likely be featured in this story at some point.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I can't think of any better reason to support Tory as a artist, and I see big things coming from this universe. So
Well, thank you.
one last time, I appreciate you for joining us, and I will stay in touch with you. All right, Tory?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me, man. Thanks a lot, Devin.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right.